This is what we build all season for, and it is finally here. We talk about it week in, week out. This team's looking like a playoff team. This team's looking like a pretender, a contender. And now we're finally here, NFL Wildcard weekend. Some people think the divisional round is better, and that's up for argument, but we have a great 5-day stretch of football starting tomorrow night with college football playoff on Thursday, college football playoff on Friday, 2 games on Saturday for NFL playoffs, 3 on Sunday, and then 1 on Monday night as well. An awesome 5-day stretch of football coming up. I'm sure a lot of drinking, a lot of gambling will be done. Looking forward to it. But Kev, we're here to break down Wild Card weekend. It's hard to believe that we're already here, but we got a few really good matchups, a few really tough matchups, I think, to pick, and then a couple more that are looking like potentially a little bit more lopsided. But excited to get into it all, and welcome back. And how are we?
Great. Yeah, it should be a great 6 games this weekend and on Monday. There's always seems to be a couple upsets, so some that we'll talk about that we're saying we see it completely going one way and might just end up going the complete opposite way. So that's always what makes it fun.
Yeah, really interested to get into some of these because, as I said at the beginning, you kind of said right there, it's like a few of these I've only seen people on one side, and there's a couple of the Steelers, or excuse me, the Commanders and the Bucks. I've seen people on both sides. Rams and Vikings. I've seen people on both sides. A lot of the other ones have been pretty one-sided in the predictions I've seen, and there's going to be something in there that's probably going to catch us off guard. This was, I heard earlier, the best year for favorites in terms of gambling in the past 35 years in the NFL. So maybe it really is just kind of the year of the chalk, and we'll have a Lions-Chiefs Super Bowl at the end of the day. But that's why they play the games, but that's why we got to go figure it out, and that's why we're here to talk about it. And we start on Saturday, as always, with the Houston Texans. Whenever they're in the playoffs, they like to kick it off for us at that 4:30 slot on Saturday. This game will be kicking off on CBS. Texans win the AFC South. They get the 4 seed with a 10-7 record. They'll be playing the 5-seeded Chargers, who went 11-6 this year, a surprise team amongst the league. And they're favored in this game as a 3-point favorite on the road here, Los Angeles is. Over-under is 43.5, and this is one of those games, despite the Texans being division champ and being home in this one, I've seen everybody on the Chargers. Do you agree with that, Kev?
Yeah, my gut and first instincts do say the Chargers. 3 points on the road. I'll take them here. Herbert has been playing really good ball recently. He's throwing at least 2 TDs in 4 straight games now. Then the Chargers defense has also been pretty solid all year, allowing a league best 17.7 points per game. And then for the Texans, CJ Stroud had a very good year last year for a rookie. The hope was that he'd be able to build on that and just have a very good year without having to include the rookie part and just be a very good NFL QB this year. But his TDs are down, his picks are up, and his sacks are also up. There have been a lot of injuries for them on that side of the ball, but Joe Mixon has been playing really well, going over 100 yards in 5 of his final 6 games. So I think they'll try and ride him here as well. But the Chargers are 5-1 as road favorites, while the Texans are 1-5 against the spread as an underdog. Even if the Chargers lose this week, I think it's still a great season for them. While if the Texans lose, I think it's a bit of a disappointment, especially after winning a playoff game last year with a rookie head coach and rookie QB. But I'm going Chargers winning by 4, so they cover the spread of -3. Chargers 24, Texans 20, over 43.5.
Yeah, I think you can kind of look at this game from a couple different angles in terms of like, all right, Justin Herbert, you've been talked about in that top 5, top 10 conversation, and I agree. He's a great quarterback. He just hasn't really had enough around him, I think. But, enough's enough sometimes, and he has to go out there and get that at least first playoff win. And if he was able to do that with this roster that the Chargers put around him this year, that would be a pretty significant kind of step in his development, I think. But also at the end of the day, there's no excuses at this point. He's got to go find a way to get it done. But then when you look at the Texans too, like if 10-7 in a division title and a home playoff game is considered a down year for CJ Stroud and the Texans going forward, I think they'll sign up for that. They had a lot of injuries this year, and if they can bounce back from that next year, expect them to be kind of back where they were last year and potential threat there in the AFC. But the AFC, man, is just loaded going forward for years to come. But I'm going to go with the Chargers here on the road. I think Justin Herbert, it's time he gets his first playoff win. He had arguably his best passing performance of the season last week, throwing for 346 yards and 2 touchdowns. You said it at the beginning, kind of he's been throwing the ball really well recently. They've been letting it loose a little bit more. The run game's been a little bit more stagnant, so he's had a little bit more on his shoulders, but he's more than capable of carrying the load. Ladd has been awesome throughout the entire season, and Quentin Johnson, shout out to him. Like over the second half of the year, he's really kind of resurged his career. He was looking like a complete bust. Last week, he goes out for 13 catches for over 175 yards. So Chargers offense is looking as good as it has all year. And some people are saying if you're going to pick a sleeper team in the AFC, he's most likely going to have to go to Arrowhead and beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But look out for the Chargers because that defense is a really good coaching staff. I wouldn't rule them out as well, but I definitely like them to at least get one win here and cover the spread as well. I think the Texans are just kind of over with this season and ready to move on and kind of regroup next year. They still have a really bright future. It'll be a third-year head coach next year, a third-year quarterback. Future's still bright in Houston, and I just think this year just wasn't their year. I'll go Chargers 27, Texas 17. So Chargers -3, and we will go with the over 43.5 just hitting there. All right, Saturday night now. The football gods bless us with my favorite rivalry in the NFL. That's coming from an Eagles fan. This is still my favorite rivalry in the NFL each and every year. The 6-seeded Steelers, 10-7, at the number 3-seeded Ravens, 12-5, 8 p.m. on Amazon. Ravens, a whopping 10.5-point favorite, over under 45.5. Kev, do you think that the Ravens are able to cover this double-digit spread?
I don't think they cover. I think they win 24-20. So Steelers +10, under 45.5. This is kind of who the Steelers are. They play decent football in the regular season with a good defense and then average offense. They make the playoffs and then lose in the wild card. But I guess luckily for them, they are playing the Ravens here, and we kind of all know the history. They always play super close games, and even over the past couple of years, the Steelers have seemed like they've had the Ravens' number, winning a majority of the games, obviously besides the game they played a couple of weeks ago. The Steelers have lost 4 in a row and failed to reach 20 points in any of those games. And all of those games were against pretty solid teams, 3 of them being playoff teams, the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs, and the other team being the Bengals, who a lot of people said were a playoff team. Unfortunately, they just got off to an incredibly slow start and couldn't end up making it. I just don't see the Steelers offense being able to do much against a Ravens defense that has been playing much better recently. I think it will be close as it is a Ravens-Steelers playoff game, but I don't think it will ever be in doubt who's going to win the game. I'm going with the Ravens winning here.
Yeah, the Steelers and Ravens game back on December 21st, where the Ravens won 34-17, was the first time in the last 9 games between the Ravens and Steelers that the game was decided by more than one possession. These teams just play close games. I said it in the last episode where inevitably the Ravens wound up winning by double digits in that one, but it'll be the year 3000 and the Ravens and Steelers are still playing games decided within 3 points. It's just been like that for our entire lives. And I expect the Steelers to put up a decent enough fight in this one to at least cover the 10, but I do like the Ravens to win it outright. I'm going to be absolutely shocked if the Ravens lose this game. And despite the Steelers' struggles over the last month where they've lost 4 in a row, I still expect them to find a way to make it a ball game, but there's no way the Ravens should lose this game. If the Ravens lose this game on Saturday night, I think Harbaugh should be fired on the spot and just kind of time to start over there with a new head coach. Tomlin could use some of that Tomlin voodoo magic that he has up his sleeves and keep this game under the number, muck it up, make it eerily similar to when they played in Pittsburgh earlier in the year and the Steelers found a way to win that one outright. But I think at the end of the day, Baltimore is going to move on, but it's going to be a little too close for comfort for some Ravens fans out there. Tomlin is 6-3 against the spread this year as an underdog, and he's an NFL best 63, 38, and 5 against the spread as an underdog since he took over in Pittsburgh back in 2007. So if there's anyone you're going to trust on this spot to at least cover the number, it's Mike Tomlin. So I'm going to take the Steelers to cover there. I'll go Ravens 23, Steelers 17. So Steelers +10, and we'll go under 45.5. All right, we go to Sunday now. We start up in Buffalo as the number 2 seeded Bills at 13-4 host the number 7 seed Broncos, one of the stories of the year in the NFL, making the playoffs for the first time in nearly a decade. Broncos go 10-7 this year. This will be a 1:00 kick on CBS. Bills 8.5-point favorite here. Over under is 47.5. do the Bills continue to play really well and look like the potential AFC representative and move on to the next round, Kev?
Yeah, I think they do. They end up winning the game 24-20. So the Broncos do cover the 8.5 and the under at 47.5 hidden. Bo Nix has had a really nice year. Hopefully he's able to build on it and become a lot like the player he's going to end up losing to in this game, Josh Allen. The Bills won all 8 games at home this year, with 6 of them coming by 6 points or more. The Broncos defense, I think, will keep them in the game because they ranked second in opponents' yards per play, first in APA per play, second in opponent success rate, and third in opponent points per game. Just a great group. Potential defensive player of the year in Pat Surtain at corner. And then Josh Allen will need to play well in this game, which I fully expect him to do so. The added threat of the Bills' rushing attack this year also helps Josh and the entire offense and the Bills as a whole. I think the Bills take the first step towards making their first Super Bowl in the Josh Allen era here.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple on this one. I just think the talent and experience is a major mismatch in this one. For the Bills coming into the year, like it was expected, like, all right, compete for the division again. But a lot of people were picking the Dolphins. A lot of people were picking the Jets. The Bills, yet again, win the East. They do it like clockwork at this point, almost like the Chiefs in the AFC West. It's kind of stupid to pick against them at this rate. But it was kind of looked at as a potential like rebuilding year, like just make the playoffs. Would it be a success? They were kind of flipping the roster until the next kind of era there, the Josh Allen era. But the Bills, I think at this point, no excuses. 13-4, you need to be at least in the AFC title game. And I think that they go out there and they make a statement this week against a Broncos team that is young and upcoming for sure. Good head coach, Sean Payton. But I just think the Bills are too much right now. And the way that they've looked throughout the year, I think that they're going to kind of enforce that and be able to score some points here at home as well. Awesome season for Denver. Looks like a bright future ahead, but I think the Bills are going to control this one start to finish. I'll go Bills 31, Broncos 17. Bills minus 8.5, over 47.5 there. All right, we go to Philadelphia now, where the 2-seeded Eagles at 14-3 host the 7-seeded Packers at 11-6, a rematch from the opening game for both of these teams this season. 4:30 kickoff on Fox. Everyone's eyes in America will be on this matchup. Eagles 4.5-point favorite, over under 45.5. Kev, do the Eagles move on to the divisional round?
Yeah, I think they do, and pretty comfortably, winning 31-20. Eagles minus 4.5, over 45.5. A big question coming into this game was the health of Jalen Hurts. It looked like we got a big answer in that question today. He was back practicing. So I'd imagine tomorrow, if he wakes up symptom-free, he'll be cleared from concussion protocol, and then that'll just be behind us. But even if he weren't able to go for some crazy reason, I think the Eagles would still win because the focus isn't on the QB. It's on Saquon, AJ, Goddard, and Devonta, and then also just the best defense in the NFL. These are two very different teams than what we saw in week 1 in Brazil. And I think the biggest difference now is how well the Eagles defense is playing. This season, they rank in the top 5 in yards per game, third down conversion rate, red zone scoring, and TDs allowed per game. The Packers also have some injuries they're dealing with, and I just trust the Eagles to win at home here. I think they have a bounce back year after their embarrassing playoff loss last year to the Bucs.
I'm going to keep it simple here. I think the Eagles win this one comfortably and roll on to the next round. Saw this on Twitter this week, but the Eagles are 11-0 this year and averaging 29 points per game when the trio of Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Lane Johnson all start and finish the game. It's that simple. When the Eagles are out there and at full strength, they are the best team in the entire NFL. It's all they do is win under Nick Sirianni. You can look at last year's collapse as an anomaly because besides that, since the midpoint of that 2021 season, they've been as dominant as a team as any in the NFL, and now it's time for them to go and get their ring. Eagles are an NFL best 25-4 straight up as a home favorite under Nick Sirianni since he took over in 2021. That is the best record in the entire NFL over that time. The only way I think the Eagles lose this game is if they beat themselves. I think this Packers team is beat up. Jordan Love's coming into this one not healthy. But if the Eagles start slow, Jalen is a little rusty in the first quarter, in the first half because of this concussion, not being out on a football field in by the time the game happens, almost 3 weeks. That's the only kind of recipe for disaster. Jalen Hurts threw 2 interceptions as well in that first game, but he's taking care of the football a lot better since the bye week. you just look at the Eagles roster, they're arguably more talented at every spot across the board. I think it's a talent mismatch. And I think the Eagles being at home obviously plays a large factor in this one as well. I don't think there's much of a sweat in this one. Maybe the first quarter, it's a little tight. The Eagles come out a little slow, rusty on offense, but I think that they pounce on the Packers in the second half as they do most teams and move on. I'll go Eagles 27, Packers 17. Eagles minus 4.5, under 45.5 there. All right, Sunday night. I think the game I'm looking forward to the most outside of the Eagles game, that's the number 6 seeded Commanders at 12-5, at the number 3 seeded Bucks at 10-7. When you said at the beginning of the year, what's the first round playoff matchup you're looking forward to the most, I would not have put these two teams in the equation, but I think this is going to be an entertaining one, and that's why it's on Sunday Night Football, 8 o'clock on NBC. Bucks, 3-point favorite here at home, the standard home favorite line there. Over under 50.5, the highest total of the weekend. Looking for a shootout here, Kev. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think we do get a little bit of a shootout because I'm going over 50.5 with the Bucks 30, Commanders 24, so the Bucks -3. I'm a big fan of this Bucks team. I knew Baker was having a great year, but this still shocked me for some reason when I saw it. I guess I haven't been paying attention enough. He threw for 4,500 yards this season and 41 TDs, which is just great numbers. There were portions also where Mike Evans was hurt, and then Chris Godwin also got hurt way back in week 7. Both teams, as you kind of talked about already, can score a ton, and then also both defenses are average at best, so it can definitely turn into a shootout here. I can see either team winning this game, but I think it's a safe bet to go against a rookie QB on the road in their first playoff game. Since 2002, quarterbacks making their first career playoff start in the wildcard round are 17-41. I think it turns into 17-42 with this game. Baker gets a playoff win in 2 straight seasons for me here. I am going Bucks winning by 6.
Yeah, it's a pretty stunning stat there. 17-41. Wow, for quarterbacks making their first career playoff start. That's a wild one. That's an eye opener. But I'm going to go against the grain here and go with an upset, go with an underdog in this game. I think we're going to get at least one underdog to win. And this is my spot here. I think this winds up being the most entertaining game of the weekend. Bucks won the season opener 37-20, but I think the Commanders are a much different and then especially more entertaining team since then. It pains me to say it, but Jaden Daniels is a fun watch, and I enjoy watching the Commanders play football. They're an exciting bunch. And as they get more weapons, that offense is going to be more and more dangerous. I think him and Jalen Hurts will be going head-to-head for a while there in the NFC East. But led by Jaden Daniels, as we said, a rookie quarterback. It's a really high-powered offense that can win in a shootout. And I think this matchup is just that. My stat for this game, the Commanders were 7-0 this year when they scored 30 or more. So they're comfortable in not only playing these games, but going out there and winning these type of shootout games. The Bucks, on the other hand, 0-4 when they allowed more than 30 points in a game this year. Tampa is hot, though. That's the one thing that's making me a little hesitant about taking the Commanders. They've won 6 of 7 to close the year. I just think this is an awesome game, but I think Jaden Daniels kind of has that clutch gene and a little bit of that fourth quarter magic up his sleeve. I think he goes and gets his first playoff win in this one. I think the Bucks defense is going to struggle to contain his speed. I'm going to go Commanders 34, Bucks 31, Commanders +3, and the over of 50.5 there. All right, final game of the weekend, and with all the wildfires out in LA, I just saw that this one could potentially get moved to State Farm Stadium, where the Cardinals play in Arizona. So hopefully for all the things out in LA, those fires get resolved soon, but that's something to watch in this game that could throw a wrench in some of these teams' plans as well. But the number 5 seeded Vikings at 14-3 travel to LA as of now to play the number 4 seeded Rams, 10-7 out of the NFC West. 8 o'clock kick on ESPN, Monday Night Football, our final Monday Night Football game of the year. Vikings, 1.5 point favorite here on the road, over under 46.5. Kev, can Sam Darnold bounce back after that disappointing game last weekend?
Yeah, you were just talking about how you think there's going to be one game this weekend that there's an upset. You picked the Commanders. I'm going with this game being an upset. Rams winning 27-24. Rams +1.5, over 46.5. I really did struggle with this one because the Vikings have been incredible all season, but it always did seem like just a little bit almost too good to be true. Maybe it is or was or isn't. But last week was a potentially the beginning of the end for Sam Darnold in Minnesota. The Vikings went 14-1 when not playing the Lions this year, and that one loss did come to the Rams in week 8. Last week was also by far the biggest game of Darnold's career, and he just played terribly. He had 10 overthrows and completed 44% of his passes. I just trust Matthew Stafford a lot more than I do Sam Darnold, and he also rested last week. I expect him to play very well. I think the Rams move on here.
Yeah, this was a coin flip for me. I could definitely see this one going either way. This one and the Bucks Commanders are the two that I think are going to be the closest games at the end of the day. I think it's another entertaining one, though, and a pretty high scoring game. It comes down to, as you were kind of saying, what Sam Darnold do we get is ultimately going to decide this one. Do we get the one that we've seen all season, or the one that we saw on Sunday night against the Lions and for many years before with the Jets and the Panthers as well? The lights too bright? Was the pressure too much for Sam Darnold? Very interested to see, because when he's clicking, the Vikings, their record speaks for itself at 14-3. But when he looks like he did last week, this offense is going to struggle to move the ball. The Rams are surging as well, arguably playing their best complementary ball of the season. The offense has been struggling a little, but the defense has been awesome. They won 5 in a row going into last week's game against the Seahawks, where they sat a lot of their key players. And when you think of the Rams, usually you think of their offense and throwing the ball around the yard. Puka, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford slinging it, Kyron Williams out of the backfield, and all the successful offenses that they've had under McVay. But their defense has been great. In 3 straight games, they held their opponents to under 10 points before last week, as I said, when they sat a lot of key guys. So this is the defense playing really good ball right now as well. But I'm going to go with this talented Vikings offense to have a bounce-back game this week. I think that they were too good throughout the year to kind of let one week spoil that great season that they've had. I think they bounced back this week. And O'Connell also, you have to think, comes into effect here. He's coached with McVay. He knows McVay's kind of tendencies and know what to expect from him. You could say the same thing with McVay and O'Connell, but I think when you're the understudy, you pay attention a little bit more to your kind of protege there. So when I look at that, I think that there's not that much of a coaching advantage here. I think it's pretty even. In a lot of games this year, McVay just outcoaches the other team. I think he's going to be just as prepared, Kevin O'Connell, as Sean McVay. And Sam Darnold, I think, is going to hit a few of those layups that he missed last week. You said 10 overthrows. If he just connects on 1 or 2 of those in the end zone last week, this is a much closer game out in Detroit. So I think Sam Darnold has a bounce-back performance. Could definitely eat those words. Wouldn't be surprised. But I'll go Vikings 31, Rams 28, Vikings -1.5, over 46.5 there. All right, our dog of the day, our lock of the week, and our touchdown parlay of the week. Dog of the day, we already talked about it, but I'm going to go Commanders +3. That's my favorite underdog because I have them winning outright. I think this game comes down to the wire, and I think Jaden Daniels has shown throughout the season he's got a clutch gene. His legs are a huge difference maker as well on those 3rd and 4th downs. I think the Commanders go down to Tampa, win outright, and move on to the next round to play the Lions.
Yeah, my dog of the day is Rams +1.5. Matthew Stafford, I think, is just going to play better than Sam Darnold. We already talked about that one as well.
Lock of the week, maybe the most square bet of the week, but I'm rolling with it. 3 favorites here on the money line parlayed together gets you to +112. Eagles over the Packers, Ravens over the Steelers, and Bills over the Broncos. Pretty square play there, but I'm going to roll with it.
Yeah, my lock of the week, I am going Jaden Daniels over 0.5 interceptions, -105. I think he's due for one. He's thrown 7 picks in his last 7 games, averaging 1 a game. I think the Rams get one here.
All right, and our touchdown parlay of the week, I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson at -110. He was open on numerous occasions last week. We talked about it. Sam Darnold missed a couple layups. He had Justin Jefferson open a handful of times. They got the looks they wanted. They just have to execute them. I think this week he has a bounce-back performance. They execute those looks, and Justin Jefferson finds the end zone there at -110.
Yeah, I'm going J.K. Dobbins -105. The Chargers are a Russian team. I think they control the clock and ball for a lot of this game, and J.K. Dobbins finds his way into the end zone.
All right, Wildcard weekend preview is behind us now. Next weekend, the divisional round, and before you know it, conference championship and Super Bowl. We're really looking forward to the games this weekend, hopefully an Eagles victory, and we will talk to you next week here on Beef Up Front.